Okay, guys, welcome to your YouTube lecture for today. Before we get started, you should have your journal entry open for this assignment. So go onto Web Campus, go under Course Content and Journal Entries, and find the entry titled Power of the Word prompt. Go ahead and open that up. Create a new entry so that you can respond to the questions for this or from this video as we go. So there will be certain times throughout this video I'm going to ask you to pause and respond to a question and then come back to this. So if you haven't done that yet, go ahead and pause the video now and then come back. Okay, so assuming you have everything up and ready to go, before we start this lesson plan, today we're talking about words and the importance of words. And the reason we're talking about this today is because a thing I'm noticing in your assignment number 2 papers is that there's a little bit of gap in the understanding of how to analyze diction and what that means. And so we're going to address that today. This should help you as you're writing assignment number 3. This should help you talk about diction in a clearer, more accurate way. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this article called How Can Language Affect the Way We Think? Now, you have a link to this in the journal entry that I posted. So under question number 1, there's a link to this article so you can open it up and follow along with me. So this was written by Jessica Gross, and it's kind of a summary of a TED Talk done by Keith Chen. So what Keith Chen did is he was really interested in language, and he started wondering if the way we talk can influence like our wealth and how much money we have, and our economic decisions. And so you're going to read this article yourself in a sec. I'm just giving you some background on it. But he found that, so he did a study on it. What he found, and if we go down here, it talks about future languages. So he found that in languages that talk about the future, past, present, like English, we distinguish really clearly between what's happening in the past, what's happening in the present, and what's happening in the future, versus futureless languages like Chinese, where things kind of, it's a little more vague, the time frame of things. He found that people who use futureless languages actually save 25% more money by retirement, which is huge, right? 25%. Let's say you save $1 million by retirement. 25% of that, right? $250,000 more just because of the language you speak. What he found is when people talk about the future more, like in English, we talk about the future, and it's really distinct from the present, it feels further away. And so we're less motivated to save money now. We live in the present more. And so what he decided is that if this is true of just one way we talk, that this one way we talk can influence this one aspect of our lives, that this has got to be influencing a lot of other parts of our lives. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is I'm going to ask you to go ahead in a second and pause this video, and you're going to read this whole article. You'll see it's very short. But what it does is you can read that first example I just went over with you and then read 4 more examples of how language and the way people speak affects their actions and influences their reality, which is an idea we're going to talk about in a second. So I'm going to ask you to pause this video, answer or read through this article, and to go ahead and answer question number 1. So once you do that, we're going to move forward to talking about the power of the word and how to actually analyze diction. So you just took some time reading through an article that talks about how language and words actually are important. Study after study shows this. This is something we've talked about in class. The specific word you use matters. Mark Twain says this. He says the difference between almost the right word and the right word is really a large matter. 'Tis the difference between the lightning bug and the lightning. What he means by this is just by adding one little word, we go from a giant bolt of lightning to a tiny little bug, right? Language matters. I want you to consider this quote. Language shapes our sense of reality. This is, we saw true in this article you just read, right? If we use a futureless language, we can save more money. If we talk about who broke the vase, it shapes our sense of blame and even could possibly shape our entire criminal justice system. There was a study that was done here in America on high school students in regard to their first sexual experience. And originally they were trying to find out like at what point high school students lose their virginity. Like this was the original purpose of the study. But when they started getting results back and they started getting these written results, something really interesting was happening. They noticed that anytime, so according to their peers, when peers were talking about their friends and they talked about a high school boy, that he was said to have had sex. And almost all the time, exclusively when they were talking about a high school girl, she was said to have lost her virginity. And these were just written responses. There was no prompting to get them to say this. But I want you to think about why those two things are different. They're essentially saying the same thing. I mean, there's some obvious, like had sex can apply to more than just one event. But this is the way people were discussing it. And it taught them something about the way high schoolers view the differences in genders, right? Had versus lost. That's a different, those are different words. And it taught them something about the way high schoolers view gender. This is one of the ways that language shapes our sense of reality. The words we use can indicate how we feel about things, even subconsciously. Let me see if I had, oh nope, I don't have anything for that. Question 2, you will have a written response to this. So we, of course, we want to be responsible, right? We don't want to be manipulative in any of the choices we make, but we really should be strategic in the words we choose in order to make a point. So when you're writing, you want to be really careful about what words you choose, and you've got to think about how they're going to influence an audience, what kind of things the audience might connect with those words. So question number 2 in your journal is this. When I was in high school, I had a creative writing teacher who would always say there's no such thing as a synonym. And what she meant by that is even though words, so synonyms are words that have similar meanings, right, or the same meaning. Technically, like in the dictionary, their meaning might be the same, right? But what she said is there's no such thing as a synonym because we react to them differently in different cultural ways. So look at this little graphic I have on the side over here. We have happy, cheerful, pleased, and glad. Now these are essentially synonyms, right? They all mean happy, essentially. But there's a huge difference between someone saying, I'm very pleased and I'm very cheerful, right? And I don't even feel like I really need to explain that. There's a difference between someone saying I feel cheerful and I feel pleased, or I feel, and maybe not so much happy and glad, but maybe there is a little bit of a difference. Glad is a more unique word. I'm so glad is different than I'm so happy. We see happy as a feeling. So this is kind of what she meant, that even though words kind of have the same meaning, we connect them differently. We relate them to different people, different ways of speaking. So I want you to go ahead and pause this video and answer question number 2 for me. Just respond. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Now we've talked about what diction means. Diction is the choice and use of words and phrases in speech or writing. So it's word choice, right? An example the dictionary gives is Wordsworth campaigned against exaggerated poetic diction. So we've talked about how you have to say what type of diction. So maybe Wordsworth used exaggerated poetic diction, right? But the trick is when you're analyzing something for its diction, you're not looking, or you are looking at only the specific words chosen, individual words. So this is a mistake I keep seeing in papers. When you say you're analyzing for the diction, some of you in your actual analysis are looking at the tone, or you'll look at a larger phrase. You'll quote a whole phrase. If you're going to analyze their word choice, you've got to look at their individual words. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to do this. So first of all, you can look at the connotation versus the denotation. Now, denotation is the literal meaning of the word. Like if you opened up a dictionary, what would it say there about this word? The connotation is all the other implications or associations we attach to a word. Now let me give you some kind of dumb examples, right? So the word cool, right? If your friend says, man, that's a cool shirt, you know that your friend, the literal dictionary definition is like cold, lower temperature, but your friend doesn't mean like your shirt looks like it's a low temperature. Your friend means the connotation of that word, which is like awesome. That's an awesome shirt, right? Same with the word killer, right? If your friend says killer shoes, you know that your friend doesn't think those shoes are going to murder someone, right? You understand the connotations. A lot of words have this. The house versus home. The denotation of home is the same as house, right? It's a place where you live. But the connotations of home are like, think of all the love songs that are like, oh, I love you so much, you feel like home, right? Like there's this feeling we associate with home. This is the connotation. Home has like a warm feeling and a safe feeling. It's the same with mom. Mom has the same denotation as mother. When we say mom or mommy or mama, right? This is a different connotation. We feel like more of an emotional connection to this person. So one of the things you can look at when you're analyzing is you can say, well, the denotation of this word is this, but the connotation, it connotes this cultural meaning, right? Like culturally, we all know that this word means this. I'm trying to think, like Donald Trump, right? Which obviously that's just a hot topic of conversation right now. He is. His name is a name, right? But the connotations of Donald Trump, like if someone says like, oh, that's very Donald Trump of you, you can know what that means, right? And you know the cultural implications of that. And that's one thing you can look at in your papers. Now, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to have you think specifically about individual words, how they create a feeling, why they're specifically chosen for an audience. So I have a video clip here, and again, you can find this link in question 3 of your journal entry. What I want you to do is in a second, you're going to pause this video. You're going to follow the link to the other video. It's a speech from the movie Miracle. I'm sure some of you have seen it. It's like one of those like classic sports hockey movies, right? And the setting for this video is this is right before, so this is a U.S. hockey team that was put together by like a bunch of random hodgepodge college players. And, it's your classic underdog story. They're not supposed to win. And the Soviets, that was Russia at the time, are the best of the best. And they're about to play them. And this is like the pregame speech given by Coach Brooks. So what I want you to do is you're going to watch this video. The first thing you're going to do is as you're watching it, I want you to write down as many words as you can that you think were specifically chosen for the audience of this video. Then after you watch the video, you're going to take some time looking at the words. So this is questions 3 and 4 in your journal. You're going to take some time looking at the words and ask yourself, why were these words chosen? What kind of feeling was Coach Brooks hoping to create by using these words? Then I want you to pick the word that you think was most persuasive and explain why. Think about connotations. Think about his audience. So his audience is a team of athletes. They're about to play in a huge Olympic game. How would a certain word make them feel? What would it motivate them to do? So go ahead and pause the video now and answer questions 3 and 4. Okay, the final thing we're going to do for this video is we're going to go back to the article that we used at the beginning. Now that you understand a little bit more about what you should be doing when you're analyzing diction, you should be looking at individual words and the effect that they have on the audience and why. How do they make the audience feel? How does the audience connect to these words culturally? You're going to look through this article, and I've started a paragraph of analysis for you. So I've decided that you're going to analyze her scientific diction in this article. And I've decided that her audience is people interested in cultural behaviors. Okay, so I think that she chose some scientific words in this article to make her audience trust her a little bit more, to create an ethical appeal. So what I want you to do is I want you to pick a word that you think what sounds scientific or makes her sound like she knows what she's talking about. And I want you to just add a few sentences of analysis to it for me. So Jessica Gross uses scientific diction to create an ethical appeal for people interested in cultural behaviors, which is what this article is about. You're going to pick a specific word. So a specific word she chose was blank. Again, when you're analyzing for the diction, you have to choose one word, one individual word that you can analyze. Then I want you to say this word was effective because, or it was effective in persuading her audience to trust her, whatever you want to add there. Remember, your goal is to be as specific as possible. So I want you to prove to me that you have thought deeply about why this rhetorical choice worked. You can spend a couple sentences talking about how an audience might connect to a word or any background you know about that word. You want to, and this should be a pretty basic paragraph you're writing now, but I want you to see that this is how these paragraphs should look. And I want you to avoid responding to, adding to, or commenting on the author's argument at any time. So in a second, you're going to do that. And when you're finished, you can go through and read all 5 of your answers and you'll submit your journal entry. Then I want you to use what you've learned today to write a good, solid analysis of the diction in your in whatever you've chosen for assignment number 3. Be aware that you should look at individual words and how those individual words persuaded the audience. Or if you find a word to be ineffective, why it was ineffective for the audience. As always, if you have any questions about this assignment, you can email me, and otherwise, that's the end of today's lesson. And let's see if I can know how to stop this.